Welcome to Level Up, the Career Playbook, or as I'm now calling it, How to Be Better at Your Job. This is the podcast where we cut through the noise and give you the real, actionable tools to reach your career goals and thrive. All right, the reason why I started this podcast is I wanted to learn how to be better, and I wanted to learn with other people. The truth is, a few months ago, I got laid off from my job, and I was sitting around thinking, could I have avoided this? Is there something else I could have done to make sure that I'm not part of that layoff the next time this happened? So together, what we're going to do is learn what the best of the best do. We're going to learn how to be recession-proof, how to get more promotions, how to get raises, and overall just be our best selves while we're at work. So whether you're just starting out, climbing the corporate ladder, or redefining your role, this is where we're going to unpack the stories, the strategies, and skills that make the difference. All right, before we get started to our today's guest, I want to just ask a quick favor. If you could go ahead and subscribe to the page and like the video, or wait till the end of the video and like it, I would really appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm. Now we got that out of the way. Let's move on to why you're all here. All right, we got to be honest. Most of us grind through work, running on caffeine, stress, and whatever leftovers we scrounge up from the fridge. We push productivity to the max, but at what cost? We all want to be our best, but how many of us actually treat our body like a competitive advantage? The truth is, the way we fuel, move, and recover can be the difference between being sharp and focused or constantly exhausted and burned out. That is why today's guest is here, to drop real science on how to get your body, mind, and energy levels operating at peak performance. Dr. Laura Jimenez is a naturopathic physician specializing in hormone optimization, nutrition, and performance health. She helps high achievers, athletes, and everyday professionals hack their biology so they can feel better, think sharper, and perform at their highest level. Today, we're going to break down the science of productivity, what's actually draining your energy at work, what foods, supplements, and habits can give you a competitive edge, and what are the worst daily habits that are silently killing your focus, how top athletes and high performers optimize their bodies for success, and then finally, simple changes you can make today to level up your energy in your career. This episode is all about making your body your biggest asset, not a liability. Let's get into it. Dr. Laura, Dr. Jimenez, my friend of multiple decades, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm super thankful for you. It's a full circle moment that we're now talking like adults and being podcasts when we were doing all the wrong things to our bodies way back in the day when we first started hanging out. So now you're a doctor and now you know quite a few things. So I really appreciate you coming on and helping me and others learn how to be better.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I know why, but I would like for you to tell the audience, why do you think I invited you onto the podcast today when we're talking about leveling up in your career?
I think you said a lot of good points at the beginning. The truth is that we are not thinking, like you said, of our body as an asset to continuing to perform well and feel good. And so I think, and I hope, and I'm very honored that you invited me on to talk about how can we support our body so that it can continue to perform optimally, which is totally possible as we age. And I think that there are things that we're doing that aren't helpful as successful, busy people. Also, because I'm dope.
Okay, there. You should have started with because you're dope. You are dope, and that's why you're here, and you're a doctor. Now, we're going to start talking about the things that you need to do better and things, all the hacks and strategies. But first, let's talk about who you are and why I know you have the credibility. What happened early in your life for you to have the career and be the doctor you are today, and why are you passionate about this?
So I'm a naturopathic doctor and I've been practicing for more than 10 years. The thing that drove me to do this initially was I wanted to be a pharmacy technician, actually. Well, actually, I want to be a pharmacist. So I started off going to school. I was pre-med, pre-pharm, and I was working in a pharmacy, became a pharmacy technician. I was trying to get my resume bumped up, looking good on resume. But as I was in there, I learned a lot about mainstream medicine. I learned that people were walking in and they didn't know what they were taking or why they were taking it. And the pharmacist was just, explaining all of that to them. I just felt like, how is it that they walked out of the doctor's office and they have no idea what they're taking or why they're taking it? And I saw insurance companies mandating, telling patients what they were going to take because that was covered. Saw people get denied medication. And I think the thing that hurt me the most or like stuck with me the most was the fact that there was kids. I still remember there was a set of triplets that would come in every month for their ADHD medications. Not that there's anything wrong with it if that's what you've decided to do, but to see children on a controlled substance like that, to me, I just felt heartbroken because in my mind, she was a single mom. She just seemed overwhelmed. I mean, anyone would be. You know,
I have help and I'm over.
3 kids, all the same age, 3 diapers and bottles. I mean, I just feel like were all the resources given to this woman? Was there any help from the medical field besides your children obviously have some kind of psychological disorder? And I think that just really stuck with me. Like, this just can't be the way, right?
All right. We're going to get into the hacks and strategies, but you've always had a passion for optimizing. Like you said, you wanted to be in pharmacy, you want to be a pharmacist. Was that like a childhood dream? Was that when you got to college? Where did the connect was like, you know what, I wanted to actually help people?
You know, I mean, it's really funny because I was thinking about this the other day. I really wanted to be a teacher. So I really wanted to help teach people. You know, I just wanted to help. Well, I just wanted back at my childhood. Teachers were the most influential people in my life. I'm in a family, 5 women, and my mom was a single mom. So there just wasn't a lot of one-on-one attention, I would say. So teachers just seemed to be people, a big part of my life. People who gave me encouragement and helped me along the way in so many different ways. And so in a way, it was something that I've been wanting to do my whole life. And pharmacy, you know, pharmacy was up the stream of like medicine, science, math. And I was always really good at that. So it just kind of fit in that way.
Okay, so I remember you talking about being a pharmacist, and I was like, oh, she's on the big time. And you made the switch, which I actually love because I imagine in your career now, you're actually having more of an impact than you would as a pharmacist. And nothing wrong with being a pharmacist, but I imagine you're having a huge impact, right?
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. Every day when I get to change people's lives or their outlook on life, or, you know, people say, hey, this did change my life. But the thing that impacts me the most is that people come in and they say, wow, I feel so motivated. Thank you for making me see another perspective. Like, to me, that's the whole teaching a man to fish, right? If I had a supplement to fix all your problems, I mean, that's fantastic. But if I could teach you something about how to continue going and being motivated and continue to work on your goals and how to feel better, like teaching you that and you being able to do that on your own and taking that with you, taking that home, I feel like that's, to me, that's impactful.
And that's why I needed you on here, because of that exact reason. So let's talk about some of the fundamentals. I'm 43 going 44, and I've never really worried about the doctor until now. I'm getting older. I'm like, I'm more tired, or this thing is squeaking and creaking and all that. So we really think everything's fine until something just drastically goes wrong and you break something or you just have to go to the hospital. What do you think are some of the biggest red flags to tell somebody that their body is not functioning at peak performance?
We don't think about this, but these are the things. Poor sleep, poor digestion, difficulty with physical activity. I mean, I met people in their late 20s and 30s who are telling me this. I'm having a hard time going for a walk, going for a hike more than a mile. And I would say poor energy. Energy is an interesting one, but it's always a difficult one for me to start to figure out what's going on. But it should be a red flag. Like, if you remember back when you were 22, you could do a lot of damage and still wake up with energy.
100%.
So when that starts to wind down, we should start thinking, okay, now it is time to go see somebody. Something is not really working for me.
Is there a point, though, because I think I attribute it to I'm just getting older, and you hear that all the time. It's just age. This is what happens. Is there a point where we have to chalk some of that up to age, or do you really feel that we should be able to be acting at optimal performance even once you cross 35, 40, 50?
So you were mentioning where I work, longevity medicine. I did that for a while. Now I have my own private practice helping women, but I helped people, even in their 80s, continue to exercise, reverse diabetes, have energy, libido, etc. They're the point. I like to think about this like a car. A 1969 Shelby, that car is gonna at some point need more work. You're gonna have to start doing a lot more work on the car. It doesn't mean it's any less valuable or it can't work. Like, it's gonna be able to work. You just have to take care of it better. There's certain things you're not gonna do in a Shelby that you would do in a Wrangler, for example, right? So it's just a different way of thinking about it. We can continue to feel our optimal best. We just have to support the body in different ways.
I like that analogy, and that makes me have more hope. I kind of just check it off to I'm old, and that's not the right way to think about it. That's unacceptable. So you're right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Unacceptable.
You've worked with high-performing execs. You've worked with top athletes. You worked with top professionals. Do you think they do something different than the average person when it comes to being healthy and longevity?
I do. They're very dedicated. And I think this happens, I've seen it, like you said, in athletes. They have a practice of dedication. They have to practice X amount, and they continue to, when they're done with their profession, let's say being a professional athlete, they take that with them. It becomes a habit. And even when they don't feel like it, now it's so ingrained and it's a non-negotiable. That's huge, what they're going to do. Yeah. And some days they push through it and some days they really want to do it. But that positive feedback of feeling better and doing better, it continues to feed that dedication.
So I am not a super athlete. I am not a famous executive or whatever. And so maybe I don't have that same dedication.
I have to beg to differ. Because even though you never were a professional athlete, there's something you've done well. And you put a lot of work into it. Okay. Right? Think about your past, the things that you put in tons of work into, and you didn't even think twice about it. You just put the work in. For me, it was music.
I would stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning making beats and trying to make songs. So, yeah.
You weren't thinking about the work you were putting in or how hard it was. And the next morning you wake up and you do it again.
I hate working out. I started doing it a lot more. You've been telling me for eons, did you work out today? I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to do other things. You've always had this massive amount of energy. I just do not enjoy working out. I finally found a guy on YouTube and we do 10, 15-minute high intensity things that I can power my way through. Can I start to find a way to like doing this and exercising and liking all this?
What I tell people is we have to throw that word out, exercise. We really have to find something we enjoy doing or that we hate a little bit less than other stuff. Right? I have people who are like, I cannot jump on a treadmill. It's so boring. I'm like, let's talk about going outside. Some people enjoy something different all the time. And so I give them different workouts every day. Some people don't want to leave the house. Some people don't have time. It's about finding what works for your schedule, what totally doesn't suck, and something that you actually somewhat enjoy. I had a woman who was exercising as a no, but she had a ton of length. And she would dig a hole and put all the dirt in a wheelbarrow, then take it up the hill a few times, and then take it back and empty the wheelbarrow. For her, it was about being productive.
Okay.
And for her, that was productive. I said, okay, so be it. We just have to find something that aligns with us.
Okay. And I like that. I tell myself, because we have a lot of steep land, and I'm like, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to do yard work, and that will be my exercise. And so actually I should be able to feel good about doing something as long as I'm moving then, right?
In general, if you're out there and you're not breaking a sweat, then you're getting good physical activity, you're getting blood flow and lymphatic, lymph is moving, but we want to get that heart rate up. We want to make sure you're doing that too.
Okay. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but let's talk about, there's a special on Netflix, I think it's Living Forever or something. There's a lot of going on about biohacking and optimization. How much of that is actually science-based versus just some trendy thing to make people buy another book or buy some other supplement?
It totally is true. The thing is this, is that we, for a long time, for example, antioxidants. You hear about antioxidants and people knew that they were great. But the research has gone so deep now that we actually do see that there are nutrients. There's a way of life, anti-inflammatory diet. These things can affect how the genes will be expressed. It does affect how we age. It affects how we perform, recovery. It really does matter. One of the things that they're talking about biohacking a lot right now is like the wearable technology. Have you seen, like, there's so much stuff out there.
Yep.
I'm not saying all of it is verifiable or, evidence-based. But the one I love the most is this continuous glucose monitor. Have you heard about it?
Is that the one that stays like pinning into your skin or something?
You do. And then you can read your sugar at any time of day. Are they 100% accurate? I'm going to say no technology is 100% accurate. But what it has done for people is it makes them conscious about what they're putting in their mouths. It's like a physical reminder. Oh, donuts were bad, but for some reason, when they see the alarm go off, when they see the number on like card or something very tangible, it really does change the way that people are living and what they're doing.
Okay, so it is legit. I always saw that. I'm like, is it for extreme diabetics? So you don't have to be a diabetic to have some of these wearables or have an extreme health condition. You're saying people are doing it because they just want to have more data and be better at what they're doing to their bodies?
Yeah, and there's a little bit of that accountability,
Yeah. All right, let's stay on the subject of bodies. Let's switch the subject in this part of the podcast is the power up. And we're going to talk about what fuels peak performance. And talking about what's in our bodies, what do you think are the most, or not what do you think, what do you know are the most common nutritional deficiencies that you see in us busy folks that is killing energy and killing our focus?
Nutrient specific, I'm going to say vitamin D. Even in places like California and Arizona, a lot of times when the sun is out, we're inside or we're covered. Number 2, I would say magnesium is deficient in our soil. It's deficient in our food, so we are just not getting it. And it is so important for so many things: digestion, brain, heart, muscle. So it can affect an array of conditions. But those would be my 3 nutrients.
Right. That's good to hear. So I take way too many vitamins now. I remember I used to make fun of my mom 30 years ago at this point. She was about my age now, and I take fish oil and vitamin D and vitamin B negative 17. And she doesn't even talk like that. I don't even know why I'm talking. But she took all these vitamins, and she's one of the most healthy people still. She looks amazing. She does not look her age, and she's taking care of her body. So I started doing this a little bit recently, and my wife has me on vitamin D, magnesium, multi, and then I added a whole bunch of other exotic ones we'll talk about maybe at some point. But vitamin D, I always wondered, it feels like, do I need this? Because yes, I'm in California and I get sun, but it's good to know I probably should still keep taking it because you're right, I'm working inside all the time.
I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1 is you can't overdose on vitamin D, so you should get your vitamin D checked.
Okay.
And then number 2, to make enough vitamin D through, people tell me about the sun and being in the sun a lot. To make enough vitamin D, to be sufficient in vitamin D, depending on your skin color, so someone like you or I would have to be in the sun for 45 minutes in a bathing suit. We need surface area, so the sun has to touch pretty much everything.
Yeah.
45 minutes every day to be able to have enough. So
that's
most of us
more
are
than I
getting
was
that.
imagining, so that's good to know.
Someone who's much more fair, they might need only 10 or 15 minutes. But again, we would need to be in a bathing suit, like virtually naked.
Okay, that is actually very interesting. So now that even justifies even more my vitamin D supplement, but does not replace me actually being outside and getting the real sun. So darker skinned people actually need to be out in the sun longer is what you're saying than fair skinned people. I always thought it was the other way around, like, oh, we absorb it faster, so it's easier.
No, we actually block it better.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Good. That's now kind of obvious, not just saying it out loud, but I'd never even thought about that. Okay. I want to wake up with energy. I want to wake up sharp, and I don't want to have my midday crash. Are there top foods or top supplements you recommend for that?
I'm going to say yes. We, the country, I don't know where it went wrong, but we need to be starting our day with protein. I like to tell my patients we need to start thinking outside of the box, the cereal box.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like we need protein, eggs. It could even be animal protein. It could be leftovers from last night. It could be healthy fats. Another thing we could talk about that might be helpful for energy and even like improving brain function and just opening and starting your day sharper is to avoid breakfast altogether. Intermittent fasting will definitely improve things like sharpness. Where like people are always telling me, well, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It is. But when do you want to have your breakfast? You can have it at 9 or 10 instead of 8. Like getting that longer fast, we're going to see improvement actually in energy, mental function, fat burning, metabolism, etc.
You scared me because that was my very next question. I started intermittent fasting now 5 years ago.
Excited to know.
I was hypoglycemic, and if I would have any sweets, I would get, and so I just, everything that I ate, and even now I've gotten a lot better, but I would eat almost anything that was fruit or vegetable, it would make me sick. So I'm like, I got to try something different. So now I eat between 12 and 8 every single day, and I feel like I'm okay. And so my question was really, if I don't eat because I'm doing that fasting, I'm still going to end up being okay, right?
You are. But when you break your fast, which is breakfast,
Yeah.
I want it to be with protein. It should be with protein. Because if you start your fast, if you break your fast with carbohydrates, like let's say waffles or pancakes, which a lot of people still do, they're doing intermittent fasting and still having carbs for their first meal, it's going to make you crave carbs the rest of the day.
Okay. All right.
And we know that's not good fuel, right? It's going to go up, you're going to get a burst of energy, and then you're going to fall.
I swear by intermittent fasting. I remember when I was first told about it, I was like, this is crazy. There's no way. Because everybody tells you breakfast, the most important meal of the day. I'm going to not be able to survive. But I feel so much better. And I do think, and I had a really bad reason why I was intermittent fasting. I was like, I can drink more because I'll have less calories throughout the day. Horrible reason. But now that I have my life together a little bit more, I still feel so much better by trying my best to stick between 12 and 8. Here's one other thing in the morning that people always go to, and that's coffee. I know that caffeine is I'm not a coffee drinker because if I have it after like 10 o'clock in the morning, I won't go to sleep the next night. My wife actually does coffee, but she does decaf now. Obviously, she was breastfeeding and she was pregnant, so she got rid of the caffeine. But for the rest of us at work, coffee and caffeine, it's the corporate lifeline. Is it helping us or is it hurting us in our productivity? If it's not, like, is there a healthier way to replace that caffeine, that coffee?
So coffee, there's been tons of research on coffee. It's probably the most beloved beverage out there. And there's really good research to show that it will improve productivity and cognitive abilities. Caffeine is not the end of the world for most people. So there is some benefits to it. It's a great antioxidant. So it can fight inflammation, but it's also very acidic, which causes inflammation. So we have this like
Bounces out?
yeah, it kind of does, kind of. And then I would say that kind of to talk about what you were saying. There are 3 types of people that I tell not to drink coffee. Like completely, you should avoid it. People with anxiety, people with insomnia or trouble falling or staying asleep, and people with osteoporosis. So if you have any bone loss. So caffeine, even 1 cup a day, doesn't matter how early in the morning it is, it can definitely still affect sleep. It can definitely still affect things like anxiousness. So there are people who shouldn't be drinking it. But if we're going to drink it and we want healthier versions, I really love green tea, which still has all the antioxidant benefits, but no acidity. So it's not going to contribute to any inflammation. I also like yerba mate, which is a South American herb, and it's full of minerals and vitamins. It's very nutritious, actually. Still has a nice little bump, caffeine. But again, we have to be careful with people who are sensitive. For an alternative, it's a good alternative.
I always wonder what that is. I see that at work. We have like all the drinks and the snacks and stuff, and I see it and it just like seems too fancy or gross, and so I've always stayed away from it. But it's actually good for you.
It is good for you.
Okay. I might be adventurous next week when I go into work and try it. I don't know. I don't know.
Is
We'll
it in
see.
a tea bag or is it in a
The
bottle?
can. It's in a bottle.
It's in a
Can.
can.
Something.
So
Yeah.
we have to be careful with these healthy alternatives too. Make sure there's no sugar, right? A lot of these things, they just load them up with sugar.
And so any benefits you get crashed out by the sugar that they add, I imagine.
Exactly. It's like that combination, caffeine and sugar. I mean, you're going to feel good for a minute, but then you're going to crash.
Okay. I just have tried my best to stay away from coffee. I get a quick jump and then I'm just anxious and I feel like Cornholio from Beavis and Butthead. It's just, it's okay.
Not for
But
you.
it's not a bad thing. It's okay. The other question I have about coffee is some people are like, I have 6-7 cups of coffee a day. I drink a whole pot of coffee. Is there a limit to what you should be doing? And then at some point you get past productivity?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, if you're drinking that much coffee, it's probably not even helping you with productivity anymore. Caffeine is a drug that we can become, well, dependent, first of all, but we can adapt to it. So there's a point where it's just not even helping with the energy piece anymore. So if you're having more than a couple cups of coffee, it's likely that it's more habit and dependency than it is beneficial for things like productivity or cognitive benefits.
Is it true that you can have withdrawal effects if you don't have caffeine? I've heard people say all the time, I stopped trying to drink pop or I stopped drinking coffee and I couldn't do it because of headaches or whatever. Is that a real thing or is that a mental just thing we built?
It's a true thing. Caffeine is a drug by definition, and it is a drug that you can become dependent on. It has a dependency factor, and so any drug like that, you can actually withdraw from. So yes, headaches are very common when we're coming off of caffeine, and you can wean yourself off though, and eventually you'll stop having it, or you could replace it with a healthier one of these other options for caffeine.
Okay. Last piece on this, let's talk about hormones. I'm curious for myself, how much of our energy and focus and even my motivation is tied to my testosterone or cortisol or insulin levels? Is there something that's tied there? Is there something I can do to make sure I'm balancing those out?
Oh my gosh, those are such huge topics. But honestly, it does affect it. Testosterone, let's see if I can do like a mini little session here. Testosterone is super important for men and women. It's the thing that makes us feel confident. It's the thing that makes us feel ambitious, have energy, motivation. And around the age of 40, it starts to decline in both men and women. So that sucks. So it does affect that. Insulin is connected to blood sugar and it is affected by how you eat, and it definitely affects energy. If your blood sugar is not balanced, it will cause fatigue.
Yeah.
And then cortisol is a hormone that gets released while you're stressed, and under chronic stress, those levels become really high and they affect your sleep, your energy, how you lose fat.
And I imagine cortisol happens, especially if you're in a career and you're always on and there's always these deadlines. Quick crash course. Is there something I can do to help my cortisol levels stay low?
Quit. No, I'm just kidding.
That's actually probably the best advice, but
Yes, there are things you can do. I mean, I know this sounds really like cheesy, but I'm gonna put it out there because if I don't say it, no one will say it. We have to get good sleep. We have to drink enough water. We have to continue to focus. We're talking about nutrient deficiencies. Well, there's other deficiencies which I call macronutrient deficiencies. We're not getting enough fiber. We're not getting enough protein in our diets. I see this all the time. If we could do that, we're going to fuel our body with the proper stuff so that you can continue to adapt to the stress. You can continue to address stress, maybe respond to it in a better way rather than react to it. I also use a lot of herbs that are fantastic at helping exactly that. They help you adapt to stress rather than react to stress.
we'll talk a little bit more about what some of those recommendations are. On the subject of testosterone, I am now 43 and I see the commercials now, and I realized I was talking to somebody at work the other day, and I'm like, the commercials and its side effects may include death and insomnia and all this stuff, all the different medicines they have now. I realize that the commercials are actually aimed at my age group and us now, and it makes me sad. One of those being always about, do you have low T? And there's some pill that's supposed to help raise your testosterone for you said it affects women as well, but for men especially, after you get over 40. Is taking some of these over-the-counter supplements for low testosterone something that's legit and you should do?
I would be really careful with taking herbs from online. There are definitely, we want a quality product. There is good research behind some herbal products, and I do feel like they work better when they're used together. So I'm not really a single herb person when it comes to, to anything, but definitely for testosterone. I like combination products. The younger you are, the better the herbs will work. I also, we have to remember there are natural things we can do, like exercise will help to improve testosterone. I see it all the time. And also I think about something else that's natural that will help: creatine. Creatine is a supplement you can get over the counter, very cheap. You don't need anything fancy. Whatever they're trying to sell you, the basic stuff works. It will support muscle growth, muscle recovery, and testosterone levels.
I forgot about creatine. I haven't taken that since high school when
Oh my God.
I was a little twig and I thought that would help me play better in football, and I still sucked. But I remember also it felt like it gave me energy, or maybe that was a pre-workout, but I remember taking creatine and expecting to like bulk up in 30 days. But now I actually should probably think about that again. I completely forgot about it. That's a good call. All right. Let's move on to the next segment called the playbook. We're going to talk about habits and what are the habits that are going to keep us sharp. And so I think you mentioned consistency, but we know that small daily habits add up. What do you think is one bad health habit that most professionals do every day without realizing how much it's hurting them?
Probably working through lunch.
Okay.
The
That's
eating
huge.
and working thing, it doesn't work. We need to be in parasympathetic mode, which is where we call that rest and digest mode. We have to be in that very calm mode to actually digest our food properly.
Right.
So people who are eating on the go and eating while they're working and just doing this numbness, just numbing, stuffing the face, you are doing a disservice for two reasons. One, when we're in that parasympathetic mode, blood supply is going straight to the gut. But when we like doing work and worrying about this email and we got to get this project done, blood supply is actually shunted away from our digestive tract. So you're not going to digest well, which of course causes things like gas, bloating, indigestion, and poor elimination. And then the other thing is we're not conscious enough to get that signal, I'm full. We're not even paying attention. We're just eating, and not even listening. But you kind of have to be in that calm state to be able to hear that message.
So I'm guilty of this where I will rush and I get 10 minutes because I need to finish the email or I have a back-to-back meetings. I was just talking to somebody and they're like, I'm going to have to eat on this call because I don't have time throughout the day. Is 20 minutes enough time? What is the minimum amount of time that we should take time during lunch to at least semi be okay?
Depends on how big the meal is, but I'm going to say at least 20 to 30 minutes.
And everybody should be able to do 20 to 30 minutes, and we somehow find ourselves super busy, but I will do better as myself. I've actually started putting calendar blocks in weeks in advance for 30 minutes to make sure that I'm able to do lunch. So I would recommend that to other people. So that's a good call. On the other end, after the morning and after your lunch, we're talking about sleep, and you mentioned it, how important it is. And you know how important it is. I think many people hear about it. Are there huge mistakes that people can make about their sleep? Are we doing sleep wrong? Can we do it better? Is there something that we can do to be better at that?
Sleep, people think, even my daughter will be like, Mom, it's not fair. You lay down and you go to sleep. Well, okay. It's not really supposed to be like that. Your body has to actually prepare to sleep. Back when we think about evolution, back then, or even not even that long ago, maybe 200 years ago, when there was no light, right? When the sun would come down, people stopped being productive. That's when people stopped. We don't stop. We just keep going. We keep watching TV. We keep cleaning. We keep cooking. We keep emailing and scrolling. We just don't stop. And I think if we're doing it wrong, I would say that is that we really need to I have people put in blocks like you're talking about, saying, okay, this is my stop time. Like, I don't care if I'm not done. Everything has to stop. And we have to start thinking about what is that process of preparing for going to sleep.
My wife could fall asleep right away.
That's because is she nervous?
Yes.
I mean, how is she going through the course? She's exhausted.
But she's been able to do that from the very, very beginning, which I'm impressed by. I, on the other hand, can't fall asleep, and I've always had insomnia. And that might have something to do with the fact that I sit on my phone and scroll for hours because I just started being more on threads, Instagram threads, and it's just so much amazing. And I just scroll and scroll and scroll, and I can't fall asleep because that's all I do, which is stupid. And I know that's wrong, but we should be doing better to have a sleep routine, is what you're
A
saying.
routine, yes, something that prepares the body to rest. So if you're sitting there, even people who read, sometimes they're reading like a thriller at bedtime, that's not okay either. You've got your mind too much going. So it's important that we take time to be like, okay, even if it's 30 minutes before you lay down in your bed, put the phone away. Preferably we don't have electronics in the bedroom. And we just really start to wind, like the literal wind down.
So is that meditate? So walk me through the end of the night then, if it's optimal. Is that, okay, 30 minutes, electronics are off, I'm laying in bed and I'm meditating. What does it look like?
Meditation is tough for people because it's like telling someone they have to do something. And it's just so tough, especially people like you and I. Like, I feel like your mind is always moving. So
100%.
Yes. So I feel like it needs to be something, it depends on the person. So for some people, it's like jumping in a tub, reading something relaxing, maybe a book preferable over like an iPad. For other people, it might be like drinking tea, having a conversation with their significant other about their day. Maybe they haven't had time to do that all evening. It may look like fine. It may look like cleaning the kitchen on your own, listening to relaxing music, or how about preparing for your next day, pulling out clothes. It looks different for different people, but for some people, it could look like 10 minutes of meditation or listening to, relaxing music, something that can calm you down.
Okay. But 30 minutes, 15, 20, 30 minutes, 30 minutes sounds like it's the ideal of unwind time.
Yes, 30 minutes ideally. If you could do an hour, that would be awesome. It could take that long, though. When people are like, I'm laying in bed for an hour. Well, what were you doing 5 minutes before you got into bed? For some people, it could take up to an hour to literally wind down.
Okay. That makes sense. I try, and even my wife makes fun of me for this, but I go to sleep kind of early, or I go to bed early, but don't fall asleep until really late. And I go to bed early because I know it takes me a while to wind down, but I need to have some better practices as I'm getting ready for that.
Have you tried to exercise before bed?
No, that'll make me even more.
You think it wakes you up?
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
I haven't tried that, but I imagine it would make me more. But I hate working out, so maybe I should try it. I always work out in the morning instead. But I'll give it a shot. All right, last one on this subject. Stress and burnout. We talked about cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
Stress and burnout, they're real. We know this. Are there better ways than others to recover and recharge, especially when in those high-pressure jobs?
Gosh, you guys, this is what I'm going to say. Don't work after work hours. You have to have time where you put it away. And I'm going to say also take time off. How is it that, I love it when people come in, they have like 3 weeks of vacation. I'm like, you're doing it wrong. I don't know what you're doing. Last week I went on vacation and my job was like, you have not enough PTO. I'm like, I will see you guys in a week.
There's this guilt, and I understand it too, but there's this guilt of if I leave, the work piles up and it makes me feel more stressed knowing that when I come back, I just have to dig out from even more work. So I'd rather just keep it as an even level. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that.
Can we delegate? Is there anything we could give up? I mean, I don't know. We have to find that balance. And we have to figure out, okay, let's say I do come back to it's so hard for me because for me, I just say I'm doing my best. If my boss says, we changed systems and I had like 600 labs that I had to sign off. And she said, I want them done by next week. And I said, I'll do my best. There's a certain point, we should do more when we can do more. Be the most productive while you're in work. Do your best. But you can also say, you know what? This can and should wait till tomorrow. The other thing, we're talking about these herbs and stuff that help with how you adapt to stress and how you cope with stress. I like to call it Rain-X for stress. We want it to just beat off of you. Right. Those demands, those emails will be there for you tomorrow. A
And
job
you're
will be
right.
there.
You're right. Like we tell ourselves that it's super important, and maybe in some careers you really are curing cancer
Maybe it
or
is.
you're in military. But for the most part, the stuff that we're doing, it can wait. But we've convinced ourselves that it doesn't. But what I really like what you said is I'm doing my best and telling ourselves that we actually are doing our best because, the reason why I started this podcast is like, oh no, I don't want to get fired. And it's like, but no, if you know you're doing your best, you actually should take a break. Your boss actually will want you to take some PTO and disconnect and take care of your family and reminding yourself, I'm doing my best. Now, if you're not doing your best, watch some of these other podcasts and we'll talk about that one, but that's a good one. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to a new segment called Sticky Situations.
Mm.
I want to talk about how we navigate common health mistakes while we're at work. So this is something that I think a lot of people do. I work 8 to 10 hours a day. I am sitting at a desk pretty much that entire time. I don't exercise. I'm not meal prepping. To your point, I'm skipping out on lunch, so I'm eating some crap at the office or at my desk. Are there simple or effective ways to make small health improvements without completely changing your life? Because this is the job I have. This is the situation I'm at. What can I do I think this is a really normal experience for people to be just sitting at a desk all day.
I think we have to, what I always try to do is try to meet people where they are, you know? So continuing to focus on protein, maybe that does look like a protein shake that that's already pre-prepared. We want to make sure there's no added sugar in there. But if you're continuing to focus on that, you're going to be already steps miles ahead. And then just avoiding unnecessary added sugars, and then just focusing on water. Those are things you can do that are small steps that will help to lead you, to be more successful later on.
Is there anything, this is going to sound almost lazy, but are there any things like while I'm at my desk or around my desk is just movement? Is there some kind of something I can do while I'm even at my desk that will help me out?
I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about stand and sit desks, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about, so they did some research on stand sit desks, and they actually showed that people were more productive while they were standing and working. They also make this treadmill that goes under the desk.
Yes, I have a lot of coworkers that use that, and it's actually
Really?
slow. It goes slow, and it's like,
Slow.
hey, are you walking? And it doesn't feel distracting, and so that's a good call.
Yeah, so there's that. So those are two things we could probably do, small things, inexpensive things that can be done to help actually support productivity and also support just general health.
Okay. We talked about this a little bit, but I want to dig in just a tiny bit more. Okay. I'm a manager, and I'm like, team, let's focus on health. And I want you to be healthier, and I want you to be more productive. And we talked about you need to have some kind of limits to how much you work. But corporate is saying we need to work longer hours. We got to work through lunch. You got to be on 24/7. What would you do or suggest or recommend to people? How do I start thinking about creating this balanced approach to being a high performer, but also setting that space for myself? Is there some framework or something I should think about? As crazy as that sounds, I think it's hard for people to even feel okay even thinking about how to structure their day.
I think you're right. I think that the pressure's there. I mean, I've met people who own their own businesses, accountants, people who work for large firms, and they are working 10, 12 hours a day and they are not getting a lunch. And this is just kind of the general culture of that profession or that business. But what I think people should start to say is, we have to create these boundaries. Even what if you just lock yourself in your office? What if you just go out to your car? I mean, are people going to go, look, I don't know, I've never worked this kind of job. But, I tell people who are, on the job construction workers, I still tell them you need to sit down, just take 20 minutes, have something in your car that's not perishable, to sit down and eat. But I think it's about putting yourself first, and it's about creating boundaries, even in that type of culture. I think that's super important. And I think it's difficult. I don't think it's easy. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy, but it's about finding a way to do that.
Think what I'm hearing and what you said earlier was something I do is I literally started putting in my calendar in weeks in advance lunch. It's getting up, going to your car. It's getting up and going to walk to go get lunch. If you tell somebody you're going to go eat lunch because you haven't eaten all day, people should be forgiving and okay of that. And so it's being intentional about taking those spaces to make sure that you're creating some type of health block, however you need to do it, whatever way that makes the most sense for you. And like you said, I'm doing my best and making sure you remember that too.
I like that. Health blocks. It's fantastic.
Last scenario, and then we're almost out of time. This has already been almost an hour. Okay, I'm in my late 30s. I'm in my 40s. I'm actually there. I'm mid 40s coming up on already. I have started doing better at this, but I also remember, and for others, you start realizing that you don't have the same energy and the focus. You know your metabolism is not working the way it used to. What are some ways that I should start thinking about how do I reset and now start thinking for the next 40 years of my life? This is a big thing to think about, right? Where it's like, okay, my body's changing, my life is changing. I've never been taught. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to do next. Where do I start just to start thinking about how I'm going to do better?
I like two things. Number one, know what you know and know when to delegate. That's the first thing. So I didn't want to forget. The second thing is you should start thinking about what you put in your mouth. It's either contributing to health or going against health. You know what I mean? Is this providing me fuel? Is it delicious? Sure. Okay, fine. But is it helping with my cells? Is it helping with my brain? Is it helping with my goals of having more energy, building muscle, being more productive, having better libido, having better appreciation for life? I mean, all these things do affect how we feel. Right?
Right.
And we feel it. Who feels good after beer and a pizza? Nobody. It's
I feel
delicious.
Wow. I feel good during the
Yes.
beer and pizza. I feel great.
Yum. But when you're done, no one feels great. So we just have to start. And then I would say also, no one's 100%. I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. It's about doing your best most of the time. And I do still see people lose weight, gain muscle, improve cholesterol, reverse diabetes when they just do their best most of the time. We're talking 70% of the time, maybe 80% of the time, right? We don't have to be 100%. That's a thing that stands in the way of people even starting. They think they have to be good every day.
I agree with that. And I have to do it for an hour and a half. I have to run a marathon from the beginning versus 10 minutes. For me, I said I'm going to start at 10 minutes.
Yeah. That's how I started, in my pajamas. I wouldn't even put on workout clothes. 10 minutes a day is what I did in pajamas because I refused to put on workout clothes.
I respect that too. I understand. I do the same. Whatever. Okay. That's super helpful. And it's just really, to your point, I'm doing my best. 70% of the time you want to make sure you're being consistent, but you don't have to be perfect. You're going to have your cheat days, whatever. And it's just starting. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. It's just starting and keeping consistency. And if you can add a couple minutes to whatever you're doing. And then you also said, watch what you're putting in your mouth. Make sure the stuff that is going in there is actually stuff that's helping you be better.
And if you need help with diet, if you need help with exercise, hire someone for a few months. They're going to give you a wealth of knowledge. It will change your world.
You can also chat GPT it nowadays, but I would also rather talk to a real doctor or somebody that really can help. And I'm going to make sure that people know how to reach you because people are like, well, I don't know where to go to. And I think they should be able to go to you as well. But you were about to say something. You're not a fan of ChatGPT when it comes to this stuff?
Not necessarily. I use it like, hey, find me a research article on this thing, right? And I like it. I think that it's a good place to start. I'll say that.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to wrap this up. And it's already been an hour, which is insane. I always like to end it with it's called quick fire questions. It's a 2-minute drill. Quick question, quick answer. See if we can wrap this thing up. What is one supplement that you think almost everyone should take?
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D. You did say that. All right. Since you already said that, what's the next supplement?
We already talked about it, but magnesium probably.
Okay, cool. The worst health myth that refuses to die.
Fat is bad. Get
Fat
over
is
it.
good. So
It's
like
not.
what I'm doing right now with my dad bod, it's good.
No, I mean fat that you consume
Okay. Not
is
stored.
is bad. That's a myth. It's good for you. Fat is good for you to
Okay.
eat, not to hold
Um,
on to.
okay. I will work on that then. What's one thing that most people overcomplicate about their health that's actually simple?
Eating vegetables, you can buy them already chopped. You can eat them raw or cooked or roasted or soups. It's so easy, but people really do complicate it.
Sure. Make it taste good, but don't
Yeah.
throw sugar or do something that takes away the nutritional value, but make it something that tastes good to you.
Even butter is okay.
Oh, okay. What's the best health advice you've ever received?
Well, for me, it was calorie restriction. No, that I shouldn't restrict calories. And I think this is probably true for a lot of people. There's a lot of people, they think they're eating too much, and then they stop eating or eat very little. Most people in this country are not eating enough
Oh, wow.
food, nutritious food.
Okay.
Our macronutrients, fat, healthy carbs, complex carbs, and protein.
That's good call out of healthy foods. Because I was like, aren't we the biggest we've ever been? Um, we're not eating enough of the good stuff.
The good stuff.
Okay. So I can't keep eating my McDonald's, whatever. Last quick question. If you can give one rule about feeling great and performing at your best, out of all the stuff we've talked about, the one rule, what would it be? I think I have a guess, but what would it be for you?
You know what? Trust your instincts. Our body speaks to us every single day, and most people actually listen and hear, but then they ignore it. And so I just want people to start listening to their body. This feels good. This does not feel good. Even if it is exercise, that means that's probably not the right one for you. Let's try something else.
Okay. I like that. That actually is helpful, and it feels like it takes some stress off of like always having to be perfect like you were saying earlier. So that's a good call. All right. Doctor, this has been amazing. This has been eye-opening. I actually learned a ton of stuff today. Some things I feel better about, the vitamin D situation, the amount of sun that I need, the importance of sleep. We could actually talk for like 500 more hours about this. Because we can't, and because people listening can't do that. What I would love is there a way that people can learn more or reach you, or do you have your own resource of how people connect with you, or is there a better place for people to learn more about this?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's naturopathlaura.com, and you can find me on Facebook at also Naturopath Laura, and I could give you my handle and my website.
Put
You
it
could
in the
post it.
description too. Amazing. Naturopathlaura.com.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been amazing, Dr. Lori. I appreciate you, the full circle moment. I
No.
appreciate you always thinking about how to be better, and taking care of our mind and our body actually will make us level up and be better at our jobs as long as we put some boundaries and some common sense structure into how we do things. So I appreciate you. Once again, if you want to reach out to her, naturopathlaura.com. And otherwise, you can reach out to me and I can connect you as well. But once again, my name is Brian Bell. This is the Level Up Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today and I hope you learned a lot. I sure did. We will see you again next week. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you for having me.